There's a detail about public executions that history books tend to skip over. It's not the method, it's not the crime, it's the crowd. Because these weren't small gatherings of grim-faced officials. These were massive, noisy, almost festive events where entire cities emptied their streets to get a good view. 10 times in history, the line between punishment and entertainment completely disappeared. And in this video, we're going to walk through every single one, so you can see exactly how that happened and why nobody tried to stop it. Number 1, executions that turned into public festivals. On the morning of a scheduled execution in early modern Europe, the town did not go quiet. It woke up louder, flags went up, shops closed early. Not because people were mourning, but because they did not want to miss their spot. City officials planned these events months ahead. Roads were cleared, stages were built. In England during the 1700s, employers let workers off and schools emptied out. Families traveled hours from nearby villages just to get close to the scaffold. And here is the part that really stands out. The state encouraged all of it on purpose. A loud, cheering crowd made the whole thing look legitimate. The crowd was not just watching. They were part of the punishment itself. Number 2, people burned alive while thousands watched. Burning at the stake sounds like something out of a dark fairy tale. But for several centuries across Europe, it was a real public event, and the crowds were not small. In Spain and Portugal during the Inquisition, burnings called autos da fe ran for multiple days. There were processions, sermons, and assigned seats for nobility and clergy. The condemned walked through the streets in special robes, had their charges read aloud, and then the fire was lit. Crowds reacted, shouted, and prayed out loud through all of it. The church framed it as mercy. Burning purified the soul, they said. That framing gave the crowd permission to treat a person dying in agony as a perfectly acceptable afternoon. Number 3, the hanging days when entire cities shut down. In London, there was a stretch of road leading to the city's main execution site. And on hanging days, it became the most crowded street in the city. People rented windows along the route. Rooftops filled up. The whole thing earned the name Tyburn Fair. Taverns opened early and stayed packed all day. Street sellers moved through the crowd with food, drinks, and printed pamphlets covering the condemned person's crimes and last words. Some of the condemned even dressed well, gave speeches, made jokes. The crowd expected a performance, and sometimes they got one. Eventually, authorities moved executions inside prison walls. But for generations, hanging day was just what you did if you had a free morning. Number 4, children forced to watch brutal public punishments. Here is something that rarely gets mentioned. At public executions and floggings throughout history, children were not just present. They were brought there on purpose. In early modern Europe and colonial America, taking your child to watch a public punishment was considered good parenting. Schools marched groups of kids to floggings and pillory sessions. In some towns, seeing an execution was treated like a civic duty, something every young person was supposed to experience. Parents who kept their children away were seen as soft. And the punishments these children watched were not mild. Floggings drew blood. Brandings happened in the open. Executions went wrong and took a long time. Number 5, executions. So popular vendors sold food to the crowd. Picture this. You are standing in a crowd of thousands. Someone nearby is eating a meat pie. A few feet over, a man is selling hot drinks. And at the front of the crowd, someone is about to be hanged. Food vendors at public executions were not an accident. They were a fixture. They knew the schedule, they knew the routes, and they showed up ready to work. At major execution grounds across London, Paris, and colonial America, vendors sold food, drink, pamphlets, and small trinkets. A high-profile execution could move thousands of printed pamphlets in a single afternoon. And that commerce did something interesting. It made the whole thing feel normal. You eat at a fair. You eat at a market. Number 6. Bodies left hanging as warnings to entire towns. The execution was not always the end. In many cases, the body was left hanging for days, sometimes weeks, as a message to everyone who passed by. This practice was called gibbeting. The body would be coated in tar, locked inside an iron cage, and hung at a crossroads or hilltop where it could be seen from far away. Towns had permanent gibbet posts used over and over across generations. Some caged remains stayed up so long they became local landmarks, with names attached to them. And people just lived alongside them. The rotting body at the crossroads was not shocking. It was just part of the town, like a fence post or a market stall. Number 7. Public floggings that lasted for hours. Not every public punishment ended in death. Some were designed to last, to stretch the suffering out over a long time, right in front of whoever showed up to watch. In the Royal Navy and across colonial territories, floggings were carried out in front of assembled crews and townspeople. Sometimes the number of lashes was so severe the punishment had to be split across multiple days. The person could not survive receiving them all at once. So the crowd came back. The humiliation in front of witnesses was considered part of the sentence. A flogging done in private was seen as a lesser punishment. The crowd was not just watching. They were the punishment. Number 8. Crowds cheering as prisoners were torn apart. There is a category of public punishment that goes beyond a clean execution. These were events designed to destroy a body as publicly and completely as possible. In Paris in 1757, a man who had attempted to kill the king was tortured in the open square. Hot pincers tore his flesh. Molten lead was poured into the wounds. Then horses pulled him apart. Windows overlooking the square were rented out. Rooftops packed. The whole thing lasted hours, and the crowd stayed for all of it. Historians later pointed to events like this as a turning point. Moments when state violence became so extreme that even loyal crowds went home unsettled. Number 9. Executions that drew tens of thousands of spectators. Some executions stopped being local events and turned into something closer to a mass gathering. In the United States in the late 1800s and early 1900s, public hangings drew crowds that filled entire fields. The last legal public hanging in Kentucky in 1936 pulled in an estimated 20,000 people. Folks traveled from neighboring states. Vendors set up outside. It was a destination. Railroads made this possible in a new way. When an execution was announced, special excursion trains brought people in from surrounding towns. Newspapers built the anticipation for days. And then came the postcards, photographs of the crowds, sent through the mail with handwritten notes on the back, just like any vacation souvenir. Number 10. The last public beheadings that shocked the world. The guillotine was built as a reform. A clean cut, fast and equal for everyone, more humane than what came before. What nobody planned for was the crowd. During the French Revolution, public guillotining in Paris happened daily. The same square, the same blade, over and over. People attended every single day. Some brought knitting. Some brought their children. It became routine. The last public guillotining in France happened in 1939, outside a prison at dawn. The crowd showed up drinking, shouting, pressing forward. When the blade dropped, people surged. Officials watched and made the call on the spot. No more public executions. The crowd had not changed. The tolerance for the crowd had. The thing that connects all of these events is not the method. It is not the crime. It is the crowd. Ordinary people, workers, parents, children, shopkeepers, who showed up found a good spot, and watched. Not because they were forced to, because they wanted to. These were not mobs or outliers. They were the mainstream. And the states that ran these events knew that, counted on it, and built the whole system around it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos like this one. Because history is full of moments that are a lot closer to home than we'd like to think.